All right, so next steps. After you submit the application on time, the IRS will review the application package and verify the eligibility for the ERC voluntary disclosure program. The IRS will then mail a letter letting you know that they received your application and whether the IRS can proceed with your application or if it was rejected. I don't know that it will tell you why it was rejected, but I would act on it if it gets rejected, because it's possible they tried, they thought they were asking for additional information. I've seen where the letters get printed, but then they don't get mailed until a lot later. So definitely see if you can, I believe there's going to be an appeals process for rejected applications, but that process is not available at this time. So if you can proceed, there's a lot of stuff that you have to do, and it has to be done within a short time period. Otherwise, you fall off. And I don't know if there's an appeal process for that. So the IRS will mail a closing agreement. They will need you to full pay your ERC VDP liability amount using EFTPS and if you, and I couldn't figure out the proper order to do all this. So we're talking about if the IRS approves you for an installment agreement, you'll get a form 433D installment agreement before I talk about in a couple of slides in the future where we talk about what to do if you can't full pay your ERC VDP liability amount. And again, an authorized person must sign the closing agreement and form 433D if applicable. And they all have to be, all the forms have to be returned to the IRS in the manner that the IRS tells you they need to be sent. And then we're not clear if they got mailed in, if they had to be uploaded into their document. So I'm not sure, but it will say on the letters, and I think it will, there'll be some more information coming out as people start applying for the voluntary disclosure program. After the IRS receives your signed closing document, they will adjust your account to reflect the eliminated ERC amount. Do not submit amended returns correcting your ERC. The paperwork that you're filling out will automatically make those corrections. What they mean by this is don't fill out another 941X backing out the ERC. The terms of the ERC voluntary disclosure program closing agreement cannot be appealed. Like you either agree to them or you don't. There isn't any negotiating on there. So what if you can't full pay? If you can't full pay, you can still participate in the program, but the IRS has to approve you for an installment agreement at the time you return the signed ERC voluntary disclosure program closing agreement. If you don't, and that is a form 433B. I don't know how they can approve you for the program before they process the form 433B, but this was written so poorly to me. I just grabbed a screenshot off of the Q&A section because this is why some of this stuff is so confusing. But so if you have to know at the time that you are applying for the ERC voluntary disclosure program, if you can full pay, and I say you, and it's the business that is applying for voluntary disclosure, but they have to know at the time the voluntary disclosure application is being submitted, because this is their only chance to fill out an installment agreement. And the installment agreement is part of what the IRS is looking at, whether they're going to accept or deny the ERC voluntary disclosure program. But if you can't full pay the ERC voluntary disclosure program liability and you are not approved for an installment agreement, then no other IRS payment plans are an option if you participate in the ERC VDP. You may want to consider financing the amount due from other sources so that you can get the benefits. So this would be the time where you hopefully have a good solid local banker connection and say, hey, I really desperately need this loan so that I can get out from under this ERC that I got, and hope that you've got that good agreement or arrangement and can borrow money.